My name is Kali. I'm 25 years old. So when I was 22 years old, about a month or so before my 23rd birthday, um, I went to the doctor. I just for various things, just for a checkup, and I complained that I was a little anxious about certain things, just general things in my life. And they gave me a prescription for an antidepressant slash anti-anxiety medication that is ironically used very commonly and usually very effectively to treat OCD. Um, and I guess what happened was it just didn't mesh very well with my body chemistry, and actually was the main factor in my onset of OCD. So, very short, I took the medication for 3 days at the lowest dose, and on the third day, I had my full-blown onset. And truth be told, it could have happened really at any point in my life, I guess, because I had shown symptoms prior. But once the onset kind of happened, I could no longer let the thoughts go. I couldn't shake them off anymore. I couldn't get rid of them. And what happened was I clearly remember the first thought, and that was I was holding my dog, and I thought about how I was like, wow, I could so easily just break his neck or choke him. And then that really, really scared me. And it kept playing over and over in my head. When it happened to me, I didn't know what was happening, and my biggest fear was not, that I was going to be put away or anything. Of course, I was afraid that I, was going to have to be institutionalized or something. But my biggest fear was that I was going to act on these thoughts. And I couldn't wrap my mind around that. I kept saying, what if I'm that one exception? What if I'm, a case that they've not heard about? What if I don't have OCD? What if I am really a bad person and this is who I've been all along and it's suddenly blooming through? Morbid obsessions are kind of a lesser known subtype of obsessive compulsive disorder. They come in a couple different categories. So I was experiencing ones that dealt with harm. So these harm obsessions can be a range of things. They can be, you either intentionally or unintentionally causing harm to someone. So an intentional cause of harm was what I was thinking about. I could break his neck. That was me intentionally harming him. But then there's also a side that you could unintentionally cause harm to someone, and that could be through neglect. That could be through, forgetting to turn the stove off, or, forgetting to lock the door when you leave, and thinking that, because you did those things, the house is going to burn down, or that someone's going to break in and, harm someone at home. And then there's also a sexual type of morbid obsessions, and that can be the most common one that I hear a lot. People are afraid of becoming pedophiles, even if they've not shown any tendency, never were leaning towards that. Just like doing something that you deem immoral or just not acceptable or appropriate ever, let's say, committing rape or incest or something like that. And these are all thoughts that I've dealt with kind of on their own. And let me tell you that they are very, very scary, because what we know of OCD is not what we know. We don't realize that morbid thoughts are a part of that typically, just because that's not publicized. And one of the first things that you learn in therapy when you're trying to recover from obsessive compulsive disorder is that thoughts do not equal actions. So just because you have a thought, it's not going to suddenly synthesize into an action. Why does awareness matter? Now, on the surface, I think everyone is aware of OCD. So, but what does awareness mean? So we know that everyone says, oh, I'm so OCD, or I'm so bipolar, I'm so depressed today. And if you've watched any of my videos that I make on YouTube, you know that this is one of my biggest pet peeves, is that we kind of, in our vernacular, set up this preconception of what these disorders are. I'm a painting instructor, and every day at my job, I hear someone say, oh, can you help me? I'm so OCD. I can't get this, this shade of this paint right, or I have to get this line perfect, or I just can't do it the right way and it needs to be perfect. Can you help me? And I just have to kind of grin and bear it, because I know that they don't really know what they're saying, that I'm sensitive to it, and I wish I wasn't so sensitive. And I think prior to my onset, I probably wasn't as sensitive. I probably said those things. Like I said, it's harmful to think of it that way, because it totally dismisses an entire group of people that are suffering. And awareness kind of helps in the sense that it makes us realize what we're saying is hurtful. It's really important, because when I was in the emergency room the night of my onset, because I didn't know what was happening, I didn't know what was going on, and I was talking to the doctors, and I told them, listen, I'm really scared that I'm going to hurt someone, or I'm going to hurt myself or something. They looked at me like I was crazy, because they weren't aware of this form of OCD. They weren't aware. So had I gone in there and said, I have this compulsion, I have to wash my hands because, I'm afraid of this, that's something that's very recognizable. That's something that fits in this box that we understand of OCD. But when we have other things that we've not heard of before, it kind of throws us off, and we say, oh, I don't know what that is. That's something I can't touch. I don't know about that. You need to be supervised by someone else, because I can't help you. People that are suffering can't seek help because they are afraid that they're going to have exactly what happened to me happen to them. And that's really, really scary. That's really upsetting that a lot of people feel that they have to suffer in silence because they don't even know what they're going through. I didn't know what OCD really was. I didn't know that for as many people as are suffering, that's as many types of OCD there really are. Because when it comes down to it, no one suffers exactly the same types of thoughts. No, everyone has this unique thing about them. And I remember when I was talking to my mom about my onset, she said to me, she's like, I never told anyone, but when you and your brother were born, there was a period that I was afraid that I was going to hurt you guys. I didn't want to be around you. And she suffered in silence. She didn't tell anyone. She didn't tell me, she didn't tell anyone till 22 years later, well after the fact, because she thought that something was seriously wrong with her, but she couldn't talk about it. And there are so many different stories of women who, have come forward and said, I'm nervous, I'm scared that this is going to happen, that I'm going to hurt my baby, or that I'm going to do this. And they've had their children taken away. They've been, inspected by child services or whatever, because people don't understand that, just because I say I'm worried that I'm going to do this, it doesn't mean that I want to do it. Of course, for me, and for a lot of other people, it's, statistically known that many people with this type of disorder contemplate or, try to commit suicide. I know I thought about it, and I still think about it. And I decided a long time ago that if it ever came to the point where I really, really thought I was going to go through with one of my obsessive thoughts about harming someone or doing something awful, that if it came to that or killing myself, I would kill myself. That's the reality for a lot of people, because they don't know that they're suffering from something that is real and that, can be worked on. Why it's so important to find like-minded people to help support you. That's what I mean by that, is finding other sufferers. So at first you might find them the way that I did, which is not the right way. I was seeking reassurance, and if you know anything about OCD, that is one of the number one things that you should not be doing, is seeking reassurance. But I just wanted someone to say, you know what, your fears are valid and you're not crazy, you're not a bad person, I know what you're going through, and you know, you're not going to do these things, you're not going to act on these thoughts. I realized, wow, these people really understand what I'm talking about. You know, recovery is an ongoing thing, but if you find, say, a support group or somebody online that you can talk to that knows what you're going through, it helps in two ways. So you have someone that you can bounce ideas off of and say, hey, listen, I have this problem, without reassuring me that it's going to be okay. How do I tackle it? And then also, there's always going to be people ahead of you, just like that. And then there's going to be people behind you that you can help in the same way. If you see someone struggling, so say they post on a forum and they say, you know, I'm afraid this is going to happen, you can help them without reassuring. And truthfully, like I said before, for as many people as are suffering, that's as many types of OCD that there are, but that doesn't matter. In the end, all types are treated the same way, and you go about, you know, your treatments in the exact same form. So if I see someone struggling with a type of OCD that I don't have, let's say, for example, you know, scrupulosity, which is religious OCD, they might say something like, oh, I'm afraid that, you know, if I do this, that I'm going to go to hell, or I didn't pray properly, so that means this, and that, you know, I'm going to end up somewhere. And I could have a thought that says, you know, I'm going to go to hell, and I could be like, all right, well, I'll meet you there. Because to me, that doesn't matter. I'm not a religious person. But even though I can't understand their thought process for that religious, I know that exact feeling of anxiety that they have. I know that pit in their stomach that's building from worrying that they're going to, you know, have something happen. It's cause and effect. It's just the same way that I worry that, you know, I could, you know, go into the kitchen, grab a knife and stab someone, or that I could, you know, unintentionally leave my scissors too close to the end of the counter and my cat could knock it off and get stabbed. So that's me worrying about, you know, doing something through neglect or whatever, because I didn't stop it. I could have stopped it. So even though I can't understand one type of OCD, I can apply my feelings of my own experiences and understand and help that person and help them through what they're going through. But there are a lot of communities out there that you can really find and get immersed in and learn a lot from, because